Pledge of Allegiance and Invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Larry?
I'll give you my country prayer.
There you go.
Dearest Heavenly Father, creator of all was, is, and will be, we come before you with humble and contrite hearts, knowing we have offended you. We have removed you from our public and private places, squandered your gifts, broken your laws of love. Uniting our hearts and voice, we ask for your mercy and forgiveness. Almighty Father, renew our trust in you, your Son, Jesus. Guide us to restore his image to our country in our love and respect for each other. Install us in your holy word. Open our hearts to permit your divine will to direct our every thought, word, and deed. In you we trust, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Strengthen us to live our pledge, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Also, Lord, we'd like to add, we need moisture, please. And all these things we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Larry. That's a prayer that I've appreciated ever since you brought it to our attention, and especially this Christmas season. I think it's most appropriate that you pray that prayer, so thank you very much for that. A couple of things with regard to Chair's comments. One is we will be adjusting our agenda today because we have one executive session. We have two executive sessions, but one of them is going to need to take place about 9:15. So depending on how the flow of everything else goes, we may interrupt our regular meeting to go to executive session at 9:15. Just wanted everybody to understand and be alerted to that. And then secondly, Dwayne Drees is absent today due to a family matter, but he alerted Dory and myself this morning that he would not be present with us today and wanted you to be aware of that. Anything else that the commissioners would like to see on the agenda, or something that you have a question about on the agenda before we move on? Okay. Yeah. Anything?
Nope. I would offer a motion.
I would accept a motion, and just to make sure that you saw on the consent agenda, there was a letter of support that we were asked to provide, and we included that on the consent agenda along with the payables and the minutes. So just wanted you to make sure you had not overlooked that. But with that, I would entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I move the approval of the consent agenda as published.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bob. All in favor of the consent agenda items being approved, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. I know we have at least two people who would like to make public comment, and are just a quick refresher with regard to public comment here at County Commission. We try not to be real strict, but we do ask for consideration of a couple of things. We ask that you keep the public comments within about a 5-minute time frame. We're not going to cut you off mid-sentence, but we would like to stay within about a 5-minute time frame per comment. Also, we ask that the comments be respectful, and if they are not respectful, sometimes we will interject and ask that you discontinue those comments. So respect and brevity with regard to the comments, and there will not be any comments other than maybe a clarification question or something like that from the commission. So with those guidelines, I would ask what public comments we might have today. We have a gentleman in the back that would like to come up and speak, and when anyone who makes public comments, just come to the microphone and please state who you are and for the record, because we do have people online as well as folks here in the room. So
My name's Robin Nichols, and my wife told me to keep this very professional today, so I'm going to try my best. I can't help but notice your sign back there, Finney County, dedicated to its citizens, serving its taxpayers. Okay, I'm here about personal property tax. We're in an inflation, depression. Every year our taxes get higher and higher and higher. I'm no stranger to the appraiser downstairs, and I've been on their website, and they have a little saying that says, don't look at the appraiser as a bad person. They just go to the county commissioners. The county commissioners tells them how much money they got to have, and then it's their job to go out and get it. Well, I wish I could work for an employer that I could just say, well, I want to go on this vacation, and I want this, and I want that. It's your job to pay me more. But it don't work that way, does it? Every year my house, I'm just talking my house, I'm not talking cars or nothing else. This year I'm paying right at $5,000 a year personal property tax. That's $400 a month. But first of all, I'm going to get back on when I moved out to where I built my house. Well, they mismeasured my house for 13 years, mismeasured my shed. I was paying too much taxes. They let me go back for 2 years. Then I had to file an appeal. Well, I'd have to go to Topeka for the appeal. Well, I wasn't going to take off work, miss a day of work, drive to Topeka, and probably still lose the case. I just told them they need to learn to use a tape measure. Well, this year we added a concrete driveway, and I swear it wasn't 2 days, there was the appraiser sitting out in front of our house. And I talked to my wife, and she said, well, a guy at work said that the appraiser had been in their backyard. So I called the appraiser, and I says, yeah, I see you out at my house. I says, I don't want you on my property. Well, we got a right to be on your property. And I said, no, you don't. I said, you can't even run a tape measure. Stay off my property. Well, you know, it's wrong the way that things are done. And I'm going to go back on a little bit more stuff that's happened. I bought a boat here a couple years ago, and I'm registering it downstairs. And the gal tells me I need to pay sales tax. I said, no, I don't think I do. Yeah, you do. So I paid it. Well, I get to doing some research, and no, I didn't know the sales tax. So I called them, and I said, I gave them the law, KSA 7936036 or something. I'm not sure that's the law, but it was similar to that. Well, she still argued with me, but she gave me Topeka's number. I called Topeka. Topeka goes, well, let me have a tax lawyer call you. So this old man calls me, and he knew what law I was talking about. Well, before it was over, I said, so I don't know it. Well, I can't give you no tax advice, but I can tell you where to get the forms. So I filled out these forms, and they had 120 days to pay me. Well, I did get my money, but at that time, Joe Biden was our president, and our value of our dollar was sinking. Every day, my money was worth less, but they did not have to pay me interest. I have to pay them interest when I owe them money, but they don't have to pay me interest. Last year, I go to pay my personal property tax downstairs. I'm a day late. The gal going to charge me a late fee. I said, come on, you ain't going to charge me a late fee. You got to. Well, I paid for the whole year. They got to use my money the next year. I paid for the whole year. Where's common sense at? That's ridiculous. And then I think, well, what am I getting for my money? This year I was out taking my dogs for a run out on Towns Road. Car comes sliding around the corner and hits a gas riser and blows out his tire. There's 3 kids in the car. They just drive on to Towns with a flat tire and their bumper dragging the ground. I called the sheriff. Took forever for the sheriff to get there. Well, the sheriff finally gets there. The sheriff finds them. I said, you give them oh, no, they just had a flat tire. I said, a flat tire? I said, they hit a gas riser, their bumper's on the ground, their tire flat, they drove 3.5 miles, and all you did was, they just had a flat tire, you didn't give them a ticket? Well, then I was mad. I was more mad at the sheriff than I was the kids that did that. Well, I filed a report against him. I thought the sheriff wanted to drive around in his Dodge Durango and his spiffy up suit and not do a job of paperwork.
Robin, about 1 minute, please.
Okay. Well, I don't think you guys can manage a piggy bank, let alone this county. I think you got a license to steal. You show me a thief, and I'll show you a liar. Thank you.
Robin, before you exit, please share with us your address, if you could, please.
4840 Leonard Circle.
Okay. And have you been a lifetime resident of Finney County?
I've worked for Reeve Cattle Company for 38 years.
Okay, thank you. That
Moved from Colorado.
puts some context to it. Yeah, thank you. All right. Any other public comments? Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Vicki Gurman. I'm here today on behalf of the Southwest Kansas Builders Association. And I called a few of you. Some of you I wasn't able to get in touch with, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew we would like to invite all of the commissioners and Robert Reese to our luncheon. We have a monthly luncheon this week, or this month. It's going to be this Thursday. Around 11:30, we're going to start and kind of have a little meet and greet, lunch to start at noon. It will be at Southwind. And we have the chief lobbyist for the National Association of Home Builders is going to be our speaker. So it's quite an honor to even have him come all the way out here to see us. So I wanted to make sure that you gentlemen are invited. And if you'll just let me know as soon as possible so we can kind of get a head count on how many will be there. I know Commissioner Finney already indicated that he would be there. So I think Dwayne is out all week. Is that
Well,
what he said?
to my knowledge, just a day or two, but I don't know about Thursday. I just
Okay.
know he's gone today,
Okay.
for sure.
I apologize, Commissioner Drees. I know all you guys personally. Sometimes I call you the wrong name.
No, that's okay. No, he's out for today, I know for sure.
Okay, okay. But yeah, just let me know if you can make it, and if you don't let me know and you end up being able to show up, just show up. We would certainly appreciate having you there.
That's on the 8th,
Yes,
correct? And at 11:30 at,
Southwind.
Thank you for that invitation.
Yes, you are welcome. And one other thing, I did submit my application for the Planning Commission through the portal on the city's website. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but that I'm sure will be coming up on your agenda. As you know, I was on the Planning Commission for a number of years, and then I termed out. So there are 2 positions coming up, county appointees. So I would appreciate your consideration, get me back on the Planning Commission. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? I'm seeing mostly staff in the audience today, but anything else? If not, then we'll move on to the business items. Alicia, I think we have you first with regard to the My edition.
Yes, good morning. What I have before you today is FC 2022-54. It's a parcel plat for the My Edition. It's located at West Kansas Avenue and VFW Road. They are splitting this into 3 lots. One is 16.73 acres, one 5.5, and one 1.22 acres. So the property is zoned GC General Commercial District. At the time, they don't have any plans for Lot 1, but Lot 2 and Lot 3, they have some plans. One would be to build a house, and then the second one would be to build a shop. So the owners are aware that before they do anything, they'll have to rezone the property to conform. This went before the Planning Commission on November 17th. No major concerns. And then staff would recommend approval of the plat. Any questions for me?
Questions, commissioners? Larry, Bob?
Just clarification on, when we look at the whole lot there, the one little section that's carved out, that's the existing property that's developed there now? So this is all around?
All around it, correct.
Can we pull that map back up, please? Yeah. there you
So
go.
it's hashed in yellow.
And so then the area south of that is the one lot that's not there, and then the other 2 are the other 2 lots that you're talking about?
Yeah, so all in the hashed area. Dory, if you'll go back to the plat.
There you go. Okay,
Yep, that lot 1, block 1, the 16.73 acres is the one that they don't have any plans for at this time.
okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Anything else? Dwayne?
Dwayne.
Or Dwayne, gosh. Yeah, who did that? Who started me on that? No, Vicky did that. It's Vicky's fault. Yeah, no, Dave, I'm sorry.
Questions maybe for Alicia, maybe for Lana, I'm not quite sure who, or maybe for Robert. We've talked about a sewer system in that vicinity before. Not gonna get into that today, but this particular plat that we're considering, does it have all of the utilities to it that it needs to exist as is planned?
They'll have to run, rural water a little bit further north for them to get water, but otherwise they have everything else. I'm not sure about the sewer portion you're talking about. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, I realize we're talking about the what ifs and so on, but at some point, we need to say, okay, it's now time to either move or not move. And I think maybe we're getting close to that point. So, is it an appropriate time to discuss that a little bit, or is that for another day?
I think it's for a different day, but let me ask you this, because Dave's question, a more global question, not just to this plat. But as these developers come in, are they made aware of the water and sewer and how close it is and what might, I mean, are they given a heads up, if you will?
Yes.
So they know what the consequences might be?
Yes, whenever someone's coming to split a property, we typically have a meeting with them personally or the surveyor. For this, we did have what we call internal staff review, where we have everybody come in, they tell us what they want to do, and we go over all of those options, what they need to look for in the future, and they kind of have to, as the owner, buyer, decide where they want to go from that point.
So they should not be surprised if at a subsequent time, something comes up and there's a question or a concern.
Correct.
Okay.
In that previous picture, could we go back to the aerial view again, please? The mobile home park that is off to the east of that area, is that all on septic or is that on the city sewer?
To my knowledge, that's all on septic.
I think it's septic.
You talking about wagon wheel, Bum? Yeah.
I think it's septic.
Pretty high concentration, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions to Alicia? If not, what's the board's desire about the approving this plat?
I move, Mr. Chairman, that we approve the plat as submitted.
Been moved, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Larry. Any further discussion or questions? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And Mackenzie, and I think, let's see, yeah, and I think Kurt might be involved in the discussion on this as well, but let's have you lead us off, and then we'll have the two of you discuss it with us, and then we may have some questions.
Mr. Chairman, if you would, I would like to start this.
Oh, okay.
And then let Mackenzie take over for me.
Well, her name wasn't on the agenda, so I'm just bumping you. Yeah, that's certainly okay.
Okay, I'm Kurt Logsden, Finney County Public Works Director. 2 weeks ago, Mr. Tim Hannigan, who is developing Western Kansas Corridor, is quoted telling the Board of County Commissioners collectively, "You are not doing your job." That was mainly because he is quoted saying he will not plan on developing in Finney County as long as the Public Works Director and the County Administrator are here. Basically, most would think he is saying unless you get rid of the Public Works Director and the County Administrator, he won't be developing in Finney County anymore. He insinuated that the county was the reason why he couldn't get all his roads paved before the asphalt plants shut down for the winter. Next, he showed he was very upset because the Public Works Director and the County Administrator wasn't present for a meeting, which continually keeps costing him time, and that Mackenzie wasn't versed with what the issue was when they talked with her at a certain meeting. Quite honestly, the Board of County Commissioners should be concerned with that, as that could make the county look really bad. It is very disturbing when county employees don't do their job and what they are hired to do. Before I go on, I would like to speak to these issues that has caused Mr. Hannigan so much distress, and why Mr. Hannigan would like to see the Public Works Director and the County Administrator gone. The last 2 weeks since Mr. Hannigan spoke, Mackenzie has done an exhaustive and very accurate project of gathering the correspondence from each meeting that has taken place and each email conversation concerning Mr. Hannigan's development with the county in preparing for today. Concerning the asphalt plant shutting down before Mr. Hannigan could finish his payment because of the delays the county has caused him, we have found that through the entire process, the things that delayed his project was from Mr. Hannigan's own design team or development team he put together. They had their pre-construction meeting on July 27th, which had not been delayed to anyone's fault, but rather the long process of the attorneys putting together the development agreement. Now that the pre-con meeting was completed, they could have started construction immediately and have the groundbreaking. However, at the pre-construction meeting, it was noted that they still couldn't start construction because they still didn't even have the contract developed that was needed between the developer and their contractor. This was going to take them an additional 2 to 3 weeks before they could get a notice to proceed. Now, after groundbreaking and once the construction finally began, so they could try to get the roads paved before winter, not one thing, even though other processes were still happening, not one thing the county has done which held up any construction. So wow, no one is to blame for the asphalt plants to shut down before they could finish paving this year, but his own development team. Next, the last meeting that Mr. Hannigan was so furious about that the Public Works Director and the County Administrator didn't show up for. When Mackenzie had made a meeting invite, Mr. Hannigan got back to Mackenzie with an email. I want to read that email to you. Mackenzie, we already met about this. Nearly 3 weeks ago, if my memory serves, you were going to clarify, back up the 3 weeks, he said nearly 3 weeks ago. It was a lot closer to 2 weeks than it was 3 weeks. You were going to clarify for me immediately after that meeting, remember? Yet here we are. Will all parties from the county who are relevant to the conversation be attending? I am uninterested in again clearing my schedule only to attend a meeting without the county administrator and the Public Works Director. The first edition of the corridor already has an asphalt street poured to an 8th Street exit, which is false. The road is not even close to the 8th Street exit, which is what you would expect given that we went through all the proper planning steps and the county commission approved my plans. Continually inferring there will be no 8th Street no exit to 8th Street is silly. The plans for the second phase showing a North 8th Street exit have been in your hands for 3 months. I have no louder voice than any other taxpayer in the determination of 1 versus 2 exits to 8th Street, a tax-financed road. If you believe the development will be safer with only 1 South 8th Street exit, I look forward as a taxpayer to that discussion. But in no way is it acceptable for my time and money to continue to be wasted. On October 24th, Rebecca with PEC, who is on Mr. Hannigan's development team along with economic development, emailed Mackenzie asking for a call via Zoom and wanted to meet with Mackenzie. Rebecca did not ask to meet with the Public Works Director or the County Administrator to attend, But basically, she told Mackenzie that she was welcome to invite whoever wanted to be on that meeting. This is the meeting that Mr. Hannigan was so upset about and accused Mackenzie of not being aware of everything involved was actually set up with his own team, but yet he wants to talk the county down. And again, this is a meeting that his team set up, and he said, I am uninterested in, again, clearing my schedule only to attend a meeting without the county administrator and the public works director. And again, but in no way is it acceptable for my time and money to continue to be wasted. This was a meeting that Mr. Hannigan's team set up. Now that brings us to today. Today is about a local developer that decides rather to continue working through the arduous process of development to blame his painful journey on others. What he didn't realize is when you get up during a Board of County Commissioner meeting and attack public officials with lies, it opens the doors so the internet and papers can make comments on his lies that can ruin people's long, highly accomplished careers because both sides are not known at the time and because they don't have comments from both sides. Mr. Hannigan has come before you with nothing but lies that are easily proven and arguably opens the door for the developer to be sued when it can be proved that they were lies intentionally to remove the very people that were holding him accountable to county regulations. Mr. Hannigan came before you as a gaslighter to show frustration that the county is at fault for his asphalt timeline, loss of clients that were interested in lots, and I guess anything else he can think of. My gut tells me that it is merely an attempt to get around regulations that has been in effect since 1996. And I'm sure he knows of the regulations because economic development is on his development team, and they surely know the regulations, or at least should. Mr. Hannigan told the Board of County Commissioners that he would not do any more developments if Public Works Director and the County Administrator were still here. I can't put words in his mouth, but basically I take that as fire them or I won't be back. Additionally, I will badmouth the county to other developers. Next, after he respects each one of you that was up here that day, he says collectively, the Board of County Commissioners isn't doing their jobs because of the Public Works Director and the County Administrator. So I want to look at that. I have been in Public Works for 38 years. I've been a Public Works or Transportation Director for approximately 31 years. 10 to 12 years ago, I was nationally recognized, which includes Canada, for my high level of accomplishments and for my executive level leadership and management excellence in Public Works. I received the highest professional designation possible with the American Public Works Association, which again includes Canada. From the best that I can remember, I have worked with approximately 32 county commissioners over my career. I am a former president and longtime board member for the Colorado Association of Road Supervisors and Engineers. I have sat on state transportation executive committees. I received the Colorado State County Road Supervisor of the Year award, along with numerous other leadership awards. I have represented Colorado transportation supervisors and engineer professionals throughout the United States in national and international events. Next, we have the county administrator. His position was advertised by you guys in January of 2020. I want to make a quote that Dwayne Drees had about Robert. Robert comes to us with a wealth of knowledge and experience. With his wide range of expertise, the board believes he has the ability, passion, and leadership to lead Finney County, says Mr. Drees. My fellow commissioners and I am very excited to work with Mr. Reese for the benefit of our taxpayers. He has both an undergraduate business degree in accounting, a graduate business degree in operations management from the Kansas State University. He is a certified public manager and a former president of the National Association of County Administrators. He also served as one of the Kansas Association of Counties representatives to the National Association of Counties. In 2012, Mr. Reese was named County Official of the Year, awarded by KAC. I want you guys to know that I hold Robert as the most knowledgeable professional I have ever worked with in my long career. In the short time I have been able to work with Mr. Reese, I have already found myself learning from his knowledge, and I highly respect him as a top-level executive in county government. Top level, second to none. I wished I would have had a lot more experience working with him. I would even be better than I am today. I believe most would say that you hired two highly qualified individuals that are capable of leading Finney County into the future. But of course, Mr. Hannigan doesn't feel that way. You have two well-educated, highly experienced, and knowledgeable individuals who has 30-plus years each dealing with development on far larger projects than what Mr. Hannigan is proposing on Western Kansas Corridor. Both of us are used to much more efficient, technical, and effective processes for development review than what exists here today. We are used to regulations that are easily read and interpreted, regulations that effectively make sure people pay their fair share of development impacts. We are used to subdivision specifications and criteria that fully address all impacts from residential, commercial, and industrial growth. You are working with regulations that were established in 1996, ones which are highly inferior to anything that the county administrator and myself have ever seen. Everyone has been trying to work through these regulations with confusion the entire way because they were poorly written for today's time. But at the time they were established, they were probably fine for any development back in the 1990s around Garden City. Robert McKenzie and I know of the outdated regulations and have already started working on the long process on developing new and updated land use regulations and subdivision construction standards. Now, for the most part, collectively, it seems you guys agreed with Mr. Hannigan on everything because you did not communicate back with all of your staff on the facts or their professional comments concerning his comments 2 weeks ago, because you instructed us to go forward with a development agreement that had no requirements concerning 8th Street that we had stated the development agreement wasn't ready yet. The proper way is for staff to work with developers with helping them with the process that the regulations call for, as we have been doing. When a developer has a circumstance that warrants a variance, they can basically come to the Board of County Commissioners and ask for a variance on these regulations, but only through the right process. Mr. Hannigan is maliciously attacking our careers and reputations for doing our jobs and managing and enforcing the regulations you guys put in place, and you guys seem to be okay with that. And I only mean this collectively because I don't really believe all of you feel that way. My job description and state statutes say I am to lead and manage all functions of public works in accordance with local, state, and federal laws, rules, and regulations. I'm also to enforce and maintain compliance with all federal, state, local laws, and ordinances. This entire circumstance that Mr. Hannigan has brought before you has made the county look bad. When the county administrator hired me, the goal he set for me was to help him and the other county department heads to improve the perception of the county. That was Robert's #1 goal for me when I was hired, to help him improve the perception of this county. Well, the perception of the county pretty much lies with you guys today, because Mr. Reese and Mr. Logsdon are only doing their jobs by protecting the county and all county taxpayers from taking on impacts that development is creating. I am more concerned about the taxpayers we have, and many of them actually work for you guys, that have a hard time putting food on their tables for their families. I am less concerned about a local developer that likes to brag to everyone that he is putting $8 million into his development and then lies to the Board of County Commissioners so that he can get around regulations. He states the county will get millions in return, but he failed to tell everybody publicly that it will be 20 years and almost all of us will be underground before the county sees anything from his development. I believe the decision you guys make today.
Just a minute, Kurt. Please, we need respect from the audience. He's commenting, please, that's disrespectful, and I do not tolerate disrespect.
Thank you, Lon. I believe the decision you guys make today will truly show which direction the county is headed. If the Board of County Commissioners can't stand up and back the people that you hired to do their job, and they are doing just that, then what message are you sending to all the employees and taxpayers in Finney County? And the commissioners needs to do that with backbone in a public meeting. I hired McKinsey so that we can improve our development policies and procedures and to better serve anyone who wishes to do development in Finney County. We are doing our job, and McKinsey has 8 pages of the entire process with Mr. Hannigan's development that can show that we are doing just our job and show we are not the problem with his problems, which seem to be within his own development team. McKinsey is very, very good at what she does, and I will always demand that everybody treats my employees with respect because they work their butts off for this county. I will defend them in the street, anywhere in the public, and at a public meeting. From this moment on in my department, no one in my department will meet with Mr. Hannigan himself. But we will welcome whichever representative he chooses to meet with us, and we will greatly respect and be professional to whichever representative he picks. Today, the county's perception is in your hands. Now, I would like to apologize to everybody here and everybody back here that feels I stepped outside the ethics of professionalism. I believe everyone needs to step outside of it when corruption is present, and in this instance, it's development corruption. If everyone stood up against corruption instead of just complain about it, this country wouldn't be in the state that it is in today. Thank you, and Mackenzie, it's up to you now.
Kurt, thank you for your comments. And Mackenzie, now specific to the developers agreement that we're being asked to consider, and I will pose some questions to you with regard to that may prompt some discussion. So I appreciate that.
Before I start this, I do want to clarify that timeline that Kurt did mention, that is not a completely comprehensive timeline. That is only based off of information that I was privy to. So there is probably stuff that on that timeline or stuff that isn't on that timeline that could be, so.
You're referencing the approximate 8 pages that he referenced in his comments.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh, I just want to make sure we got it all in context.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. So this morning before the board, you are asked to consider the development agreement for the second phase of the public improvements for Western Kansas Corridor. The public improvements within this agreement include the north half of Kenzie Avenue, which is the westernmost north-south street from Acroway to the north. And then all of Olivia Avenue, which is the northernmost east-west street in the development, and then all of Christina Avenue, which is the easternmost north-south street. This will be the final planned public improvements for Western Kansas Corridor. The agreement has been reviewed by the county staff and county councilor. Before you today are two alternatives. The board may approve and sign the development agreement, and the second is the board may not approve the development agreement and direct staff to alternate action. And staff recommends alternative 1.
Mackenzie, I'm going to lead off with a couple of questions, and then obviously we want to get comments from every commissioner with regard to this developers agreement. One of the, and I'm sorry I was absent at the last meeting, and I do appreciate Larry chairing that, by the way. But it seems as if one of the questions is with regard to the 8th Street accesses. And it appears to me that the first 8th Street access, which would be on this first plat on the south part, was approved prior to KDOT approving any accesses onto 83 Highway. But I'm needing your clarification here in just a second. But that this all was prompted by the fact that the fire and EMS and so forth, the emergency services, were requiring 2 accesses into this development, whether they came one from 83, one from 8th Street, both from 83, whatever, for emergency vehicles and egress and access. Am I correct on that understanding about the 2 accesses and 83 and 8th Street, and can you give me kind of a chronological order of how that took place?
Yeah, that's correct. At the beginning of this development, from my understanding, as you all know, I haven't been included in all of the conversations. But at the beginning of the development, there was the possibility that that north entrance into the development off of 83 was not going to be approved by KDOT.
Right.
And so there was talk of an access to 8th Street for fire and EMS and emergency services. They're required to have 2 entrances into a development of this size. And so that's when it was first talked about that entrance onto 8th Street would be allowed.
Follow-up question then, specifically to the 8th Street, is that in the rules and regulations of 1996, I believe is what Kurt referenced, there's a statement, if I'm correct, that says the developer would be responsible for improving the road to which it's being accessed. Is that correct? That's in the current regulations?
Correct. And that is Article 5.33B within the regulations.
So I've got a couple more follow-ups and then we'll open it to questions. But if we were going to make that a requirement that the developer be responsible for improvement of 8th Street, that is not in the developer's agreement that we're being asked to approve today. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
That there would be permitted another access to 8th Street, but no required improvements to 8th Street?
Correct.
And 8th Street opens up to Rodkey to the north, is that correct? And obviously Rodkey is not being questioned about, a road in question about improvement or anything. Am I correct on that as well?
Correct.
So my point of asking some of these questions is, do you see or help us see what we might be opening ourselves to in the future with regard to taxpayers picking up costs of road improvements and that kind of thing? Or have you and Kurt and Robert discussed that, what it might open the door to for not this commission, but future commissions as they represent the taxpayers in improving roads?
Robert and I haven't personally had any conversations about that. I'm not sure if Kurt or Robert have. So if this portion of 8th Street is not improved along with this development, then that will be in the future, if traffic continues to increase on 8th Street, for one, we will have to continue to we'll have to continue to send our graders out there a little bit more frequently to maintain the road.
The maintenance.
Yes. We already get a lot of complaints on that road. There is a major semi-trucking company that's over there that frequently travels that road, and we get quite a few complaints about the condition of the road. So increasing the amount of traffic on that road will also increase how often we have to be out there to maintain that gravel road.
Okay.
So that right there is taxpayer money and resources that are going to be going towards the maintenance of that road. Now, if in the future the county decides to improve that road to asphalt or concrete, then that will also be taxpayer money. Or if there is a bond that's created, or if the surrounding property owners decide to petition for that road to be improved.
I'm not, and I want to clarify one thing, and then Kurt has asked to come up and address this as well, but I want people to understand, I'm not advocating for or against the approval of this developers agreement with my questions and comments. I'm simply trying to make sure that we're looking out far enough and forward that the consequences that we might experience are not unintended. So I wanted to make sure I'm putting it in context. Kurt, did you want to speak to that as well?
On the 8th Street entrance, as far as being approved, during the last meeting, Mr. Hannigan did question at the time that was approved if I knew the regulations at the time. Well, basically, I came into the process, I think, close to 10 months after he started this process. Okay, so I was not here. When the infrastructure plans were reviewed and accepted, Public Works did not have a director or an engineer at that time employed. And so Robert had contacted Todd with SMH Consultants to review that. What Todd did is he reviewed the infrastructure plans which showed the access going to 8th Street. What he approved was the construction plans all the way up to that access. He did not approve that they would have access to 8th Street. He was only approving the plans, okay? When I came on board, shortly thereafter, we were at a meeting over at the city with NDS, and I asked a question to Western Kansas Corridor, why they had these entrances on 8th Street, and they said, well, we're not planning on using them. It's there for safety reasons, which would go back to needing another access if only one was allowed on 83. I asked, so you're not planning on using 8th Street, but you want those there, how are you going to keep people from going that way and using 8th Street? And at the time, nobody could really answer. I mean, are you going to put bollards up? Are you going to put a fence up or something? Because those would be there in case they were needed for emergency reasons. But at that time, nobody said anything about actually wanting to use 8th Street. It was just they were there just in case. Okay, so then later on, when the second one came to us, and then I was doing the review, which was Olivia up on, which would be the northern entrance, that's where it was caught that, well, PEC had got back to us and said, what is the issue we have there? I said, well, so I need either a hammerhead or a cul-de-sac there so that our maintenance crews don't have to back up into traffic. And they went forward and started trying to figure out, well, they said, well, we'll go ahead and design something, you know, and they were trying to come up with ideas, which kind of started another process in this development. It took a little bit of time. So again, the intent never was to use 8th Street. It was for them to be there just in case. But when I started looking into this, the problem that we had was that we have a large company right exactly where that entrance is into Western Kansas corridor. Right now, if we let them access that 8th Street there, that company, and if it was my company, this is exactly what I would do. Why am I going to drive an extra 2 miles when all I got to do is cut across that development and get to 83 and then the highway? This is a large agricultural company. I think you all know who this is and stuff. But that is exactly what I would do. That's a concern to me as a professional. It has nothing to do with if I want WKC or not. What I saw in my head was that here we have a company that has these large trucks. The best way for them to access 83 now is through the commercial portion of Western Kansas Corridor, where Mr. Hannigan, at the earlier concept, thought that a hotel was going to be coming in. So here we have a large hotel and supposedly a pretty prestige development. And now he has opened up the door for this trucking company to start sending their trucks back and forth right next to that hotel. Okay, so that was a problem in my head. And then the regulations called for, if you're going to access 8th Street, they have to improve 8th Street, and this is where they would have to improve 8th Street and actually Rodkey to the highway because of their gravel roads right now. And when you are in a large commercial and a large industrial district, there might not be that much traffic on a daily basis that would ever want to use that. Maybe some days not. But what happens when we have a major accident or something in between the northern access that's going to Scott City or the southern access going into town, different things, the people, and it might just be for a short time, but they're going to have to shut that down. And so what are they going to do? Everybody in there is going to come out 8th Street and go around to bypass the traffic problems that they have on 83. And then even when they, you know, we know that KDOT in the future is going to be doing improvements there anyway. And when they start doing all kinds of construction processes on 83, they are going to want to use 8th Street and Rodkey. So there is an impact without any doubt. And again, that's through my professional knowledge of what's going to happen.
Thank you. Well, that's oh, Mackenzie, did you have anything else right now? Okay. So now I'm going to open it up to the other commissioners, but I wanted to make sure that we're thinking long-term, not just short-term, as we are asked to approve this agreement. So Larry, I'm going to turn to you.
Well, I guess part of the fault comes back on me because I was chairman at the last meeting, and I've always thought as a chairman when we have public comment not to get in a back and forth with them because we don't have all the information, and so it gets to be kind of one-sided. So that's why I, as chairman, did not ask any questions at the last meeting. So it's nothing to disparage either party involved in this discussion. And over the years, I've found that it doesn't do a lot of good to start pointing fingers at people if you want to get something done. Onto the project. I think it's pretty clear where the regulations stand, and I think if the Planning Commission is recommending that we approve this, that's fine with me.
Anything else?
No.
Bob?
Yeah, I guess there's several things in my mind. to me, it would look like it's almost better. We have this existing large business that has lots of large trucks running on 8th Street and Rod Key now. And it's never been important that we improve that for that business. And I think if Dr. Hannigan on his development creates an asphalt hard surfaced road that gives that business the opportunity to go on a hard surface road and not damage 8th Street and Rod Key anymore, I think that would be an advantage to the county. I'm going to take just a couple of things and address the comment. Number one, I'd like to have a copy of the 8 pages because we've previously received a copy of about 30 pages from Dr. Hannigan on his side of the story, if you will, on communication. And as opposed to getting into a he said, she said, I'd like to be able to see both of those and compare them. The statement where the county is going to get screwed because they're not going to collect any money for 20 years, I think that's very unfair because as we look at the aerial view of that property now, I see a great big circle, and I think that means that it was agricultural. When this is changed into a development that becomes commercial and industrial, and the taxes on that property are significantly increased. Now, it is true that in the future, due to the TIF, tax increment financing, that all of the things that go on above the ground, the taxes that are generated for that through the 20-year period or up to a point where the monies are paid back for the below ground infrastructure will go back to the developer. But Finney County has kind of taken a long-term view of what goes on in the past, and I think it's very, very important to continue to work on that. The 1996 regulations, I think it's fantastic that we have McKinsey, because when the developer's agreement was delivered to us the first time, no one knew about those 1996 regulations that required 8th Street to be improved. And through her diligence, she found that. But to interject it at the last minute and cause the delay, I think it was great that it should have been brought forth to say, hey, Board of County Commissioners, you guys screwed up because you didn't know about this regulation. But to interject it, I don't know that it's necessarily fair. I look at 8th Street and Rod Key Road, and I go back and I think out on the east side of town, we have a place called Mansfield Road. And there's a rather significant large truck operation, Meese Trucking, that has a secondary access. And it's not hard surfaced. And it has a development agreement that speaks to that. So I think we've had this kind of a situation before. I think we're in a situation where we are still a small enough community and we still need to adjust our attitudes and our willingness to embrace a large development like this and figure out long-term. We asked at a previous meeting here, do you have any plans for all of these roads that are around this development in your budgets or whatever else to prepare for what might happen on that corner? And the answer was no. So was it the hidden agenda that, hey, we're going to make this guy pay for all of it? I have a hard time with that. But at this point, that's all my questions.
Dave, I got your name right this time. I just thought I'd point that out.
I'm going to share a bit of frustration. If you wanted to design a form of government that's totally inefficient, you would go about it about like we're formed, where meetings cannot have a majority of a quorum shy of having the press there. So consequently, you have meetings that the Board of County Commissioners have no knowledge of. that involves a whole lot of what's gone on here with meetings that I didn't know were undertaken. And then 2 weeks ago, I come to a meeting and in walks Dr. Hannigan and unloads on us a whole bunch of stuff that I never had heard of before. So I don't know what the answer is in order to get the county commission informed on these discussions going along, because we rely on staff and we need to do that, but somehow the communication from that meeting needs to be a blip go out to the commissioners. This is what took place, or these were the issues that came up, so that we have some idea of what's taking place. My feeling right now is Dr. Hannigan has invested a substantial amount of fortune in this project, and it'd be a shame to see it get torpedoed at this stage. I've said for a long time over at the Neighborhood Development Office, they need a sign over the door that says, let's get it built. And I feel that way here. Let's get it built, whatever it takes. And if someday we have to expend a little extra money on 8th Street to make it dust resistant or to put a hard surface on it, so be it. But that's down the road a ways. They're not asking for that now. All they're asking is for permission to get onto 8th Street and use it as a fire escape, if you will. And to me, they already have one entrance from their property to 8th Street, clear down next to the bypass. The one up the north end doesn't alter the character of the landscape very much. And so I'm in favor of let's vote for approve their number one as our options, approve it so they can go get started and get it built. And then someday let's talk to KDOT and others and talk about maybe an overpass over 8th Street. From 8th Street over the bypass, so that we have more access into that property. But that's for down the road a ways. So that's my feeling right now, is frustration.
I appreciate the frustration you expressed. The overpass you're talking about, I'm not sure if that'll ever happen.
No,
because we can't get a stop sign at 3rd Street. So, or I mean, a stop, not stop sign, but signal thing at 3rd Street. So is that are you making the motion then that we approve the development agreement, Dave?
I would offer that motion.
And is there a second? There's a second. It's seconded by Larry. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay, and my vote is nay, and the motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mackenzie. We do need to interrupt the agenda for an executive session because we were going to try to do that at 9:15, but this was healthy discussion, so I appreciate that for this topic. And I think we need up to 30 minutes with regard to this executive session for non-elected personnel, and it will include Robert and Kelly in the executive session. So it's 9:35 approximately, so 30 minutes would be about 10:05.
We need a 3-minute break on the way.
And we can do that. I think we've got a cushion for that in there. So we would reconvene at about 10:05.
I move we go into executive session.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Dave, and all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. We'll reconvene by 10:05. No action will be taken from that executive session. And we're without our administrator for a few minutes because he's taken his break at the end of our executive session. But I believe, who is going to present the Rural Opportunity Zone? Oh, yeah, that's right. They didn't have a name on the agenda, but that's right. Okay, so come on up, Jenny. And for the people online, state your name, position, please.
Jenny Newberry, County Finance Director. And today I have the Rural Opportunity Zone continuation resolution for you to consider. You guys you have approved this resolution in 2021 and 2022. This pays some portion of student loan repayment to people who apply for it. The requirements are listed there for you. You have the alternative to adopt this or proposed resolution or to decline it. We are recommending that you adopt it. The impact to the county is up to $15,000 in loan assistance over a 5-year period. The county paid $3,000 in 2022. We had 2 applicants for that.
That's what I was going to ask. The
Yeah.
3,000 was two.
Yes, it was, yep. There was none paid out in 2021.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to ask how many people that, yeah.
Wasn't, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
was this a program we were hoping maybe to find a county engineer with,
It could be any position. It's anybody that moves into these opportunity zones from outside of the area is able to apply for it.
I need a lot more than $3,000 to find that engineer.
Yeah,
and this one, and before we get into comments and questions, this one would be the approval of a resolution, and we'll state the number in the motion. But before we go there, Larry, any comments?
Well, my question also was, how many people, well, this is relatively new, so, but I'm glad to see we've at least had 2 applicants.
yes.
And Bob?
How do we tell people about this? I mean, it's out there, it's a great program.
It is,
But it's
I
laying
think-
on a dusty shelf unless
I
somebody
think
knows
it's
about it.
only advertised through the Commerce Department on their website. As far as I know, that we're not advertising it anywhere at the county, but the county it's a cooperation between county and city, I believe, in the repayment of that. So,
But maybe if we put it out to the Chamber of Commerce or, some kind of a news release or whatever else that it's out there so that people who are recruiting, and there are people who still recruit because we need a lot of people here, this is a great tool.
And it's not just county recruitment,
No,
It's
it's all business.
all businesses, yes.
And that's why I'm saying we need to find a way to get it out there. I mean, if we sit here and approve it, which I think we ought to, I think we need to let people know we've done it.
yep.
Dave, anything else?
Nothing else, no thanks.
So if the board's desire is to approve this resolution, the resolution number appears to me to be 48-2022. Is that correct? And I would accept a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll second that.
Seconded by Bob. And any further discussion or questions? If not, all in favor of approving Resolution 48-2022, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Jenny, thank you on that one. And then we have a budget amendment with regard to Sewer District Number 3. So would you please
do
explain
have-
that to us?
We do have a budget adjustment in 2021, when we approved the original budget for the sewer district debt service fund. We had approved it for the amount of principal and interest that was due coming up in 2022. In February of 2022, we did a refunding of those general obligation bonds because we could get a significantly lower interest rate that would save the county over $150,000 over the period of the next 20 years in repayment of that. That was approved, and in the process of that, we did have some additional financing refinancing fees that were charged also to this account. So we are over the original approved budget for 2022. We had originally approved it for 45,163, and we are going to need 77,000 to cover those refinancing fees and the original, and the first payment on that. The first payment is about $15,000 to $20,000 higher than any of the rest of the payments, just due to the timing of refinancing. So going forward, the 2023 budget is correct for the payment that will be due coming up next year.
So for 22, we're changing that from 40, and I'm just rounding, 45,000 to 77,000.
Correct, and we did also
That's for
have,
1 year.
yeah, yep, and we also had the $25,000 that came in for the,
Oh,
the premium costs, yeah.
okay. And so this one, you're asking us to set a hearing date at this particular time?
Correct.
And that can, do we have a publication period of time, or could it be set for the next meeting?
We need it to be set for the next meeting.
Okay, well, because, I was under the impression we could set it for the first one in January as well, but,
No, it has to be completed by December
okay,
31st.
I misunderstood then.
Nope,
So, we do need to set a hearing for this budget amendment, and the next meeting is December, what is the date?
19th.
19th. So I would accept a motion to set that.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept or establish a hearing date on December 19th for the sewer district.
And probably 8:35, and let us get started.
Yep, that'll work.
And is there a second to that motion?
Dory, did we publish that, or did we have it?
It hasn't been sent for publishing yet, but we originally had 8:40, if that's okay.
Oh,
with you.
If that works?
8:40 is fine.
I'll second 8:40.
Yeah, okay. And is there, we've got a motion and a second by Dave. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I didn't have anything else for this meeting with regard to board governance. We'll have some stuff in later, if not in December, if in January with regard to board governance. Just a quick note with regard to board governance, though, our legislators are in Topeka reorganizing as we speak today, and the new legislators are getting orientation tomorrow. So it won't be long before the legislative session will pick up from that part of our governance. Staff reports. Let's start with Public Works. So you have additional things to update us on, I believe, Curtis?
Yes, here, I think it was probably about a month ago when Roman Halber had come and had spoke about some concerns he had on Old Post Road, the road that he lived on, with some accidents and stuff. And I just wanted to let you know that I went out there and met with Roman, and we walked his property and looked at the issues that he had. And he was really, I think, initially wanting to maybe put up some guardrail or something around there to keep people from coming into his property. But in that situation, I felt like the guardrail actually would probably be too dangerous for the motorists. What I'm planning on doing, though, is we're going to go up there and we're going to delineate the road better, and then we're going to put a bunch of high-vis chevron signs to show people that there's a curve up ahead. When you're on the east end and you're driving west, you're elevated and you really cannot see any curve in that road whatsoever, which is probably why that last person went into his property. And it's a perfect location for us to put the chevrons in there, and I believe that that will fix the issue, and Roman was pleased with that also. And then we'll just keep an eye on it, and if there's any more accidents there, then we can revisit it. But I believe the chevrons is going to take care of it. So I just wanted to update you guys on that.
Okay. Any questions or comments to Kurt? Go ahead.
Kurt, I think as we try to all put this Western Kansas corridor thing behind us, are there any other development agreements, RHIDs that are out there that are stewing, or there's problems, or it's working great? How do we stand? I mean, we never hear about anything until all of a sudden we've got an agreement. Can you share with us periodically if you have things in the mill?
I can have Mackenzie do that. Mackenzie is now, I mean, she's the one that's in charge of all the development for Public Works, and that's no problem at all. I can have her give, I mean, if you guys would like, she can give monthly updates or an update every meeting. That's really
I
up
think
to you
it'd be
guys.
awesome, just so that we don't get blindsided and then we're trying to decide, he said, she said, and I think, and then the second thing would be on the development agreements, if we could have kind of a Cliff's Notes on the front that this is what we have to do as a county. I mean, we've got these 6, 8, 10 pages of legalese that we have to wander through. That'd be a lot better to say, all right, here's what's in it for us. I think it would just solve things a lot better and at least get everybody prepared. And if we know we have a headache coming at us, we can be prepared. I think
Okay, I don't, yeah,
for both sides.
no, I think that's good, and I don't have any problem with that. You know, this deal here is a little, it's one of those different circumstances that, for one thing, you're dealing with a development in the county that's larger than anything else that we've had for a long time going in the county. So that's one deal. The one thing that concerns me is that NDS just doesn't seem to be up to date on our regulations. And they should be. They should be as up to date on our regulations as the cities, and they're not. So Mackenzie and I have already had one meeting with them, and we're working on trying to get things better between us and NDS, and to make sure that we don't have any hidden issues again. And then again, this northwest, this Kansas corridor, unfortunately, I came in halfway through it. And so much had been done and stuff. And this is just one of those that I think everybody needs to look at. And, you know, it has not been the perfect process. But, just like I said a while ago, the whole game has changed when you have somebody come up and start making personal accusations and trying to ruin people's careers. That is
Let's
where
not
I
go
put
back
my
through
foot
all
up
of that.
against it.
We've heard all of that, and I think just,
Well-
let's figure out a way to go forward instead of following back.
As I,
We've now learned, and we've done all the finger pointing, and unfortunately, both of you are not standing here at the same time. So we heard your comments, and I really like the fact that you and Mackenzie can bring forward whatever situations that might be a challenge in the future, and then we will not have these kind of situations.
I think the updates from Mackenzie will help us go
Okay.
forward. I don't think there's any question about that.
okay.
Dave?
That's exactly the point I was making with my frustration.
Yeah.
But if Mackenzie could have reported to us what took place the Thursday before Dr. Hannigan arrived here, it would have been helpful. So
I agree, Dave, but the thing is that there were 2 meetings with commissioners on the exact issue. One was with Lon. Myself and Robert met with Lon on it because it was a concern, because it's a very sensitive project. And then after that,
I understand.
I met with Lon and Larry. No, it was Larry and, it was, okay, Larry and Lon, okay.
See, you're selling my point. You met with them, but we can't have the 5 of us involved, or that's a serial meeting, and that's a
Correct.
no-no. And that's what I'm saying, the open meetings law causes us to not have adequate information once in a while. That's my frustration. So if it comes through the county administrator, that's a little different. He can, or through his, if you understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
He has freedom to contact commissioners that commissioners can't contact other commissioners. So I've made my
Okay,
point.
no problem, and I take them very well.
Any other, you had the Roman Halberd thing, any other projects that you were?
That was it. We're still working on the other project that has to do with the septic issues. And they have, CD has been notified on that, and he knows what we're working on, and that's basically all the update I had.
All right, thank you.
Pump station specs, I haven't talked to Todd now in 2 weeks. They should be done any day. I mean, any day.
And for full disclosure, that, you're
It's gonna
talking
be that
about the
north.
lift station?
Yes, that's that lift station just north on, that fourth district, and then, the one
That's-
that you inherited.
That's needing substantial repair.
It'll be replaced.
Oh, replaced.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the one that Western Kansas Corridor will be hooking up to. And what we did is, because of the project and stuff, Todd was working on everything as one. And I asked him to please go ahead and put the priorities on that lift station so we could try to get it replaced before Western Kansas Corridor had to hook into it. It would save both of us headaches because of that. And we should have his report any day and be ready to go out to bid.
Do we have a sewer District 4? No. Do we need to be creating that before we spend money from sewer District 4?
That is one of the things, the to-do things to create that district. And Linda just ran out of time.
But it's in process, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
It's not formed, to
Correct.
answer Bob's question. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thanks, Curtis.
And then we go on to the county administrator.
Okay. Well, as Kurt's pointed out, we've been working on various developments, trying to pull them forward. I know that Mackenzie is working on, had a discussion on the, what is it, Ponderosa development. Had a conversation with Mr. Dick Gary Dick last week on it. And she is still waiting on information on that. They went through the process of replatting it because of the frontage, so it's downsizing from 31 lots as being proposed to 26 lots. So that's all in the process. Of course, as you heard with Jenny, we're working on a lot of year-end stuff, and we'll continue to do that for the next 3-4 weeks. And then, Kelly, do you have an update on anything for us? Growell, you have a report from Growell, if you want to go ahead and do that? Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. So we have now been a full year with Growell. Actually, we've been 13 months with them, so I just wanted to give a brief update on how things are going there. I, for one, want to thank you again for the partnership with Growell. I've heard a lot of positive things from staff, and we've got quite a utilization going on. Right around 450 individuals have been served under Finney County's membership at Growell. We have probably around the mid-600s on our plan. I could not pull that number because Blue Cross Blue Shield is down currently configuring our 2023 benefits at this time. To date, we have 2,395 visits have happened within the last 13 months. Just a breakdown of a little bit of that. 105 of those were pre-employment screenings. And just for a reminder, we do direct 100% of our pre-employment screenings now to Growell. Prior to having Growell, we were paying at a minimum of $75 for each of those screenings. We've had 70 workers' compensation visits in the last 13 months. We do direct almost all of our workers' compensation to Growell. However, the exceptions would be a serious injury on a weekend or an evening, or any time that EMS is required to transport for us. 120 of those visits have been nutritional counseling, which is great. And then 24 visits have been mental wellness. The board did approve for us to add the mental wellness piece as of January 1st. Carmine has been doing a soft introduction with our employees, so he has already allowed some visits. Just in the month of November, there were 24 mental wellness visits. When I was there last week for a personal visit, I was having a conversation with them, and there were 5 additional employees waiting to be scheduled for the mental wellness, so I think that's great. This is a lot of money and a lot of savings to our health plan, so I hope you can appreciate that as well. We do not have that number yet, as I do believe we need a few years of data to be able to get you a dollar amount for that. The one thing that I do want to share, though, it's unfortunate, but we are still running very high on our no-call, no-shows with Finney County employees and dependents at the clinic. Just last year, and in the prior 13 months, we've had 186 no-call, no-show visits. That amount of no-shows equates to just over 2 weeks' time of a nurse practitioner's clinical time seeing patients. So we have been trying to educate through directors and through emails out, letters to the home, but that is one thing that where we need to do better as an organization for the clinic.
Kelly, one quick question. The 450 served, what kind of number, you have any idea what kind of numbers we did through county health when we did our own local, our in-house?
The only thing I was reported by the director at the time was 30. I don't know that those were employees, dependents, I'm not sure what that entailed. This is 450 employees and dependents. We're probably, like I said, we've got about mid-600s on our plan right now.
So it's a significant increase.
Absolutely.
And they're utilizing it.
Right.
That's good.
Yes.
Better than I anticipated it might be, actually.
And would you say it's a net savings or a net expense to the county?
I don't really know at this time. Can you answer that, Robert?
Keep in mind that oftentimes if what they're seeing Grow Well for is a lot of scheduled, if you will, appointments, nothing specialized. I think oftentimes then you would see that either going to another sole proprietor doctor, hospital, or even emergency room. And I think we've seen a reduction, substantial reduction in employees going to the emergency room.
We have.
So
Well,
however you want to quantify that,
Should-
which is a
Yeah,
substantial.
I think that would be great. I know when the insurance people stood here, they said that we continue to see a very high level of third-party. And I was wondering if that is starting to go down. Okay.
Anything else with regard to Grow Well?
No, not with regards to Grow Well.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And then they've got on the screen the thing about meeting with the district court. Anything you want to elaborate on that, or just the memo that? Okay, I hadn't seen it. I mean, I hadn't seen it since this or before this packet, but yeah, okay. All right, anything else, or any more questions to Robert, as our administrator?
Yeah, are you finished with your?
Yes.
We talked about a year ago, maybe bringing in a third party and kind of evaluating who we are, what we do, and where we're going from an overview. And then we talked a little bit in September and a little bit in October. Are we still looking, or have we given up on that?
I'm going to let Kelly go ahead and address that. I know she's been in communications with the vendor.
And so when you had originally asked, we had reached out to Bandarco and also Concentric. Bandarco, after our conversation, they did reach back out and said that they were going to have to pull out from being able to do that. They were already tied up with a big feedlot. However, I have been in quite a bit of communication with Concentric. I sat through one initial Zoom meeting with them for an original proposal. That proposal came in just over $600,000. It would be all-inclusive from the top to the bottom. I had some meetings with Robert. I got Robert on the second meeting with Concentric. and just recently received their second proposal back at $160,000. At this $160,000, they said they could go ahead and start on senior leadership, team effectiveness with our leaders, and then cascade this vision down to the employees through the leadership team. With this, there would be an assessment, some development, and then coaching and performance management. I was just in contact with Kamala over the weekend again with Concentric, and we're working on a date to get together for a final time since receiving the second proposal.
Okay, and then I guess, Mr. Chairman, does something like that, I guess in my view, and here again, I'm gonna speak from my business background, that would be something that the commissioners would commission and would receive that report. Is that something that we could ask for our next agenda, that be brought forward?
If we feel we're gonna have the information, I mean, you said you're gonna talk to her again and so forth. If you felt like you were gonna have the information, it's very possible that it could be on the next agenda.
I can have
Yeah.
that done, yes.
Well, maybe they'd have them present to us.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that topic could be on the next agenda in some format, if we feel like we're gonna have enough information. So, yeah.
And for the record, I need to remind you that I'm recused because of some relationship here to an employee.
To Concentric, yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly. Do we have an IT director in-house?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so he's here and keeps track of everything? Okay, thank you. Seemed like there was one more thing. Nope, those are all my questions for you. Thank you.
Okay. We'll start, well, before we go to the commissioner reports, you have in your packet the upcoming meeting and events. The one thing I would call to your attention, it's a fairly brief list for December, January, with regard to those meetings, but on January 17th is the commission's reorganization meeting and also the installation of our new commissioner at that, or swearing in of our new commissioner at that time. So that's January 17th, the second meeting in that month. Then let's go into commissioner reports, and Larry, let's start with you.
Oh, the main thing I did was with Commissioner Drees and I attended the legislative update, Western Kansas legislative update in Dodge City a week or so ago. And the information there, it was interesting because, you know, the new folks were there, and so they're in reorganization now. So it'll be interesting to see where all this shakes out on leadership and committee assignments. It appears that Adam Smith, or Representative Adam Smith, will still be chairman of the tax committee, which is good for us in Western Kansas. Other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Okay. Bob?
We did have a planning commission meeting and it went well. Our Compass group did not meet this month. They're having a board dinner tonight and then a Zoom meeting in December. One of the things I look back on was our January planning session on our county improvement projects. And there were two things that were talked about. One was the EMS facility, EMS and Health Department, and the other was the LEC. Last month, we had a very detailed report from Rex, head of the maintenance area, and really outlined what was going on. And one of the big concerns was a law enforcement center, and it was the other thing that was on the CIP. And I know it's kind of been put on the back burner because of dollars and, you know, trying to decide priority-wise. Had a recent conversation with the sheriff, and he says that there is a significant amount of their square footage that they cannot use because of the failures of that system. And I think it's maybe a higher priority that we take a look. And I guess what I'd like to do would be, we as a commission, the Board of County Commissioners, our administrator and Rex and the sheriff, take a tour of that building. We've gone a full year and we've talked about it, but we haven't seen the in-depth necessary evaluation. I know The previous year, you went through a relatively exhaustive process to come up with a budget number, and it's very high. But that was replacing everything in the building system. And what we have over there is an old building surrounded by two much newer areas. And the two end pieces have their own system. So what we really need to work on is that middle section. And perhaps we need to look at what needs to be done and then look at dollars, and heaven forbid, maybe that oil and gas trust fund might be the source of funding that. I know we keep it in the back pocket just in case something bad happens, but something bad is happening in that building. And so I guess I would like to see if we could consider taking a tour as a group so that we better understood exactly what's going on. And then I guess the last thing I'd talk about as I get near my end of term is the governance model. I know we're not supposed to, according to our here's how we do business as commissioners, spend a lot of time or any time with our department heads one-on-one. And yet the way to solve that is that in our governance model, it says when we finish here as a commission, we all go to lunch, including our administrator and one of the department heads. And we get a chance to know and understand what's going on in each one of their departments. And after that lunch, we then go back to that department, wander through, meet the staff, get a feel of exactly what's going on. I've attended 20 meetings, and we've not done that once. And I just think we've got to find a way to solve some of the problems that Kurt has highlighted today, that we don't know what's going on and they don't know us. And we're just two completely different islands that I think we need to break down and figure out what we all do and what our jobs are. So in the future, and when we talk governance, I think we need to go on the website, we need to read what it says we're going to do, and then either modify it or do it. That's all I've got.
Okay. Dave?
That's a wonderful idea you have, Bob, and we've done that successfully with department heads in the past. One thing that we tried soon after I became a commissioner was if there was a fifth Monday in the month, we had an evening meeting somewhere out in the county with no agenda, just us get acquainted with our community. That went real well. I think we had 2 of those meetings in the last 16 years, so.
No attendance.
Yeah, we did have one meeting at what we called then the 3I building, but the exhibition building, preparing to do some remodeling on that and got some good input and helped us with our remodel. My report's pretty short, Mr. Chairman. I had 2 things here to report. One's a library board meeting. It was rather typical. We were short on the agenda. I'm saying this wrong. Short on having enough members to start with because of vacation holidays and traveling to Florida. And our chairman was in a meeting in Dodge City. But he got a hold of us by phone, and we had an interesting meeting between the phone calls and the whatnot. But library board is through for the year. We're not going to have a board meeting in December. And the other need to report is I had a call from Vicki. She shared her desire to be considered for a position on the Planning Commission. She shared that with me on the phone call and also the invite to the December 8 meeting at Southwind. So that's the size of my contacts. Have been down with the cold, so I haven't done much.
Okay. Appreciate that. And mine also will be fairly brief. The thing I want to highlight that I did, I went over to Dodge last Friday for the KNRC annual policy meeting. And because we are a member of that organization, I felt like we needed to be there and to be present. I heard a very good speaker who's a state representative in the state of Utah. His name is Ken Ivory. He's an attorney. And I'm hopeful, and I mentioned this to Bill Clifford yesterday in my conversation with him, I'm hopeful we might be able to get him into Topeka to visit with either a committee or the legislature as a whole, because he gave some really good ideas about working with state and federal government. But a couple of points that I want to make that he stressed. One is that the most important government is your local government, and I couldn't agree with someone more than when they make a statement like that. And his point was, we're the ones in the grocery stores, we're the ones that are seeing the people each and every day. His point was that we need to take 5 minutes. Oh, where was my note here? We need to take 5 minutes a day or a week, excuse me, not a day, but a week, and contact our state legislators and be persistent. He used the 3 Ps. One is personal stories, 2 was professionalism, and 3, being persistent as we try to get our message across to our state legislators, but also encouraging our state legislators to continue working with federal government so that we can decrease some of these regulations and so forth. One of the points that he raised from a federal level was the fact that this 30 by 30 rule, 30% of lands in the country being public by the year 2030, is not the end goal. The end goal is to be 50 by 50, 50% by the year 2050. And so it's things like that that he was raising our attention level and making sure that we were staying in touch with those kinds of things. Let's see, it seemed like I had one other point. This was the other point that I wanted to raise. He made a very interesting comment. His summary of the Constitution, and this would apply to the U.S. Constitution as well as state Constitution, which we're sworn to uphold, is that can be summarized with this question: if government, which government? If government's involved, which government should it be? Local, state, federal? And I'm going to keep that in front of me as I go forward with this role, is which government, or if government, which government? So anyhow, good session, light attendance, which I'd hoped there'd be a few more counties represented, but I thought he was worthwhile making the trip over there. Questions, comments, anything else? Well, again, we have a meeting on December 19th. We have another one on January 3rd, and then we have one on January 17th that'll be our reorganization. To close out today, we need to have one more executive session, and this would be for a period of up to 30 minutes, and it will be for non-elected personnel, and it will be commissioners only, so the 4 of us only in that executive session. So I would entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
And seconded by Bob. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So we will reconvene no later than 11:15. we had an executive session. There was no action taken, and no action will be taken from that executive session. And unless there's anything else for the good of the order, adjourned until December 19th.